Hey everybody, welcome to this video. In this video, I am talking about what it means to step in your power. Many of us, all of us, who doesn't want to be able to be powerful in their own life? But how many people have ever been taught how to be powerful and how to step into your power? We hear it, step into your power, step into your power, but we've never talked about how to do it. So in this video, I am going to educate you, teach you on how to step into your power. My name is Iris, and in my videos, I talk about self-love, relationships, and expanding our consciousness. So now let's talk about the whole concept of stepping into your power. Many people operate from a place of fear, of restriction, of holding themselves back, and there is nothing more than that to help you feel powerless. And we all have the ability to be very powerful and very present in our lives. And it doesn't mean, that you have to go out and have big, bold, fanciful experiences. It just means showing up in your life in whatever way it makes sense for you, where you are occupying your full space of who you are and expressing yourself in the way that you truly are. So one of the first things to becoming powerful, and again, many of us weren't taught this. So this concept of knowing who you are is really important. And if you ask yourself right now, who am I? It's interesting. It would be interesting. It was a question that I asked myself, and I found the answer that I had very interesting. When I first started asking myself this question, it 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 didn't come across as a powerful person, a powerful being. It came across as almost with a victim undertone, because I didn't always have a strong sense of who I was. And so for you, if you ask yourself, who am I? Can you answer that? Most people come from the perspective of I'm somebody's mother, or son or aunt or uncle or cousin or somebody's sister, somebody's brother, whatever it happens to be. Or I am an accountant, or I'm a swimming coach, or I do this thing, this is my occupation. Those are things that we do. Those are relationships and connections that we have, but that is not who we are. Not at all. So ask yourself, who am I? And some of the things that you might answer are, I'm funny, I'm quirky, I see life this way, these are the things that I believe, all of that. And then the second part of knowing who you are is, do you accept who you are? And this is really interesting because most people will say, yeah, I accept who I am. But when I had to examine and ask that question of myself, do I accept who I am? If I was really honest with myself, I didn't actually fully accept who I was, because there were parts of me that I was hiding behind and wasn't allowing myself to come into full expression. And so this is a really good thing to ask yourself is, are you fully accepting of yourself? And I come across people every single day who don't even like who they are. That's pretty powerful, because how can you occupy a room with your full presence without fully accepting who you are? And that includes the good, the bad, the ugly, because we all have those parts within us. And we have to accept ourselves as a whole unit that encompasses the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's part of who we are. I was watching something last night, and the guy said, if you look left, it doesn't mean that right goes away. And if you look up, it doesn't mean that down goes away, right? We have opposite ends of the spectrum and they all exist. But if we hide and deny a part of ourselves, that part of ourselves that we haven't acknowledged, it's going to keep barking at us, and it gets louder and louder and louder and louder until we give it the attention. And sometimes the attention merely is, I know that you're there. I know, I know, I know you're there, and it's great. Be there. If I need you, I know where you are. I'll come and get you. But in the meantime, the acceptance of the whole you that you are, you might have parts of you that are really dark. You might have parts of you that gets really sad. You might have parts of you that likes to judge other people for their appearance and what they're doing or how they look. Judgment is a big thing. When we judge another, we're actually denying ourselves something within ourselves. And that's usually, self-confidence or self-esteem issues and self-worth issues. So accepting who we are and really liking all parts of us. Well, let me correct that. We don't have to like the parts that we haven't actually spent time working to resolve that within ourselves, like our core woundings and things like that. We don't have to like that part of it, but we have to embrace that as being part of who we are, and then work towards loving and sending love to that part of ourselves that needs some inner work, right? Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow as spiritual beings inhabiting these physical bodies, living on this planet at this particular day and time. It's no coincidence that we are all here on this planet all at the same time, doing what we do on this planet. And we're not here to not be powerful in our presence and who we are. So liking who we are is crucial for us to be able to step into our power and step out from behind the shadows that we hide behind, that we think is a really good protection mechanism. But the thing about that whole protection mechanism, and I'm going to do a whole separate video about this as it relates to what's going on in our world right now. But our protection mechanism, that veil is becoming very, very thin. More and more people are able to see through the thin disguises, to see that, all is not as it seems to be. There's something hurting underneath us, and the world is kind of rising up to be able to see through that falseness. And there are people here that are shining a light on that and helping you step out from behind that veil. So that is point number one, is to know who you are and start to actually like who you are and accept all the many facets that you are, because you are a complex human being. Your soul isn't complex, but your physical body and living in this day and age, there's a lot of complexities. It is not black and white. There is so many colors in the rainbow that make you who you are. And what's beautiful is that you are unique. There is absolutely nobody in the whole wide world that is exactly as you are. And that in and of itself is really, really powerful. So let that sink in for a minute. You are unique. There is nobody that has ever been and that will be as unique and has the unique makeup that you have. That's powerful. And I got goosebumps all over me. Okay, point number 2 in this little mini education is being able to speak up for yourself. This has a lot to do with boundaries, and I've talked a lot about boundaries recently in my videos. Boundaries is the separation between this is where I end and that's where you begin. It doesn't make us separate. It means you are not allowed to be in my energy unless I invite you in there. And I am not responsible for you. I'm responsible for me. Okay, now I don't want to get into the whole I have the kids thing. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is the delineation between where you end and where another person starts. Okay, and so quite often when we don't have our full expression and allow ourselves to have the boundaries that we need to have, we do so for fear of judgment or criticism. And some people are even afraid to speak up for themselves because they're afraid of the conflict. And conflict is good. If everybody was samey and nobody had conflict, there would be no contrast. And that means if there's no contrast, there's no opportunity for growth. And the really beautiful thing about being able to have really loving boundaries, because boundaries are about love, they're not about distancing, they're about love. When you have strong, loving boundaries, it creates a better connection with that person. So let me explain. Let's say you are in a relationship and there is one person or maybe both of you who have basically shut down all communication. And then all of a sudden, one person has the courage to speak up and they like explode on the scene and say this and this and this and this and this. And you step back and you actually let them have the space to say what they need to say, to hear what they're saying from your heart and hear what's the thoughts in their head, and hear the words, not only the words that are being spoken, but the words that aren't being spoken, and then the pain underneath that, right? Because when we have conflict like that, when somebody explodes on the scene like that with a lot of emotion, it also comes with a lot of pain on the inside and hurt on the inside, right? So when somebody does that, and then you have the opportunity to not be defensive about what they're trying to communicate to you, it opens up the arena to have a conversation, to find a solution to the problem instead of being stuck in the problem. And that's usually the way people operate, is they're in such conflict that they don't look for the solution. They just keep harping on the problem. And I'll admit, this isn't always easy to do, right? Because we don't want to be made to feel like we're wrong. And I think it's our inherent nature to protect ourselves that way. But, again, the vibration on the planet is shifting and changing, and we're being called to just take responsibility for ourselves and allow people to think, feel, do, act, whatever, the way that they feel that they need to. And then we have a choice to say, is that right for me? Right? That's the way it goes. But back to the whole conversation piece. So let's say that person has exploded onto the scene. Now all of a sudden it opens up the arena to have a conversation. And now all of a sudden you're talking about solutions because somebody's been heard, somebody's been understood, and now you move from defense mode into, okay, well, how do we solve this? What do we do here? What do I need to do? What do you need to do? How do we resolve this issue? And after that dust, after the conflict has settled, How do you feel towards that other person? And how do you think that other person feels towards you? 9 times out of 10, there is a deeper bond and a deeper connection when we take the time to speak our heart and speak what's in our mind from a place of love. If you're going to come out of the gate and you're going to attack and feel attacked, that's not going to have the same result. But if you allow yourself, when somebody does open up to you and does say something that's been on their mind, and you can step back and actually listen from your heart space instead of your head space in the defensive, you actually build a stronger connection with that person. That is so powerful. So powerful. And that is about boundaries as well. The third thing is trusting yourself. Now, I've done also a lot of videos about trusting yourself and trusting your intuition. When we have to make a decision about something, and it could be a little decision, do I turn left, do I turn right, do I buy this thing, do I not buy this thing, do I leave that job, do I take that job, do I go here, do I go there, right? When we take the time to just, if we're deliberating and we're on the fence and we're not sure if we should or we shouldn't, we can get really muddied in our mind, and we can become very confused, and we get really stuck, and then other people are brought into the situation, and, well, what do you think I should do, and what do you think I should do, right? And the whole confusion gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's not to say that you shouldn't consult with other people. That's always an option, and sometimes that's needed, right? To get expert advice from somebody who's been there, or made that investment, or whatever it happens to be, right? But at the end of the day, you ultimately have to trust yourself, because whatever decision you make, you have to do that from a place of being aligned with what you ultimately know is the best for you. And that's where we have to trust ourselves, that we make the right decisions for ourselves. So, and trusting ourselves is really huge, right? So we can get advice from other people, and they might say, yeah, go for it, do that thing, don't worry about it, right? But at the end of the day, it has to feel good and right for you. Your energy has to be aligned with the action that you want to take, because what ends up happening is, if you make a choice, a decision out of high emotion, without clarity and being clear and certain about the decision that you're making, why you're making the decision, why you feel it's best for you, and being prepared for the consequence, right? Because all choice has a consequence, and the consequence doesn't always have to be bad, Oftentimes it's good when we are aligned with the decision that we're making. So let's say, for example, and this is a common thing, people end relationships before they are emotionally ready and aligned with that truth within themselves. They react in a moment of outburst, and so then they leave, and they're not really ready to make that decision. And they might be heavily influenced by people around them. And so they weren't aligned with their own truth, and they weren't trusting themselves and the decision. If you are not ready to make a move, if you haven't got a plan in place, not everybody can take a leap of faith. I do that quite a bit. I take leaps of faith before I know where I'm going to land. But that's just my inherent nature. But that doesn't make it right for everybody else. Some people need to have a plan in place. They need to have their ducks in a row in order to make whatever transition they're making. Some people need a longer term plan. Some people need just a few steps ahead of them in order to make a change and a shift in whatever decision that they're making. And some people just go, okay, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to do this thing, and it's going to be all right. I just know I'm going to be all right. Something tells me I'm just going to be all right. And quite often I feel that way too. I do this thing, I make this move, I go here, I go there, I do that, I do this. And you know, those decisions that we make on a daily basis, they're not all huge and, you know, big life altering decisions. They're just little. Sometimes, most often, they're just little everyday things that we do. But we make a choice every day. The second we open our eyes, we make choices every single day, you know, but we just aren't always aware of it, right? But my point is that we do have to trust ourselves. We have to trust our intuition. Sometimes we have to tune out the noise, get quiet within ourselves so that we can hear our own answers and really feel what is true and right for us. That's really powerful too. That is stepping in to your power. So to recap, because we're at that 21 minutes here now, didn't think it was going to be this long. Sorry about that. So stepping into your power fundamentally means embracing all of you, trusting yourself, knowing yourself, liking yourself, filling up your space with your full presence, saying what you need to say from a place of love. Those are some really fundamental things of what it means to step into your power. So go step into your power. I hope that this video has been helpful for you. If it has, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, like my page wherever you're watching this. I am sending you so much love. Please stay healthy, and until I see you on the next video, I'm sending you so much love.